Welcome back, Star Powered family. And if you're new here, aloha and welcome. I'm Leslie Tagorda, Hawaii born astrologer, author of the upcoming book Astrology for Changemakers, coming out in September 2026, and creator of the Astrobrand method. I light the path for visionaries, healers, and changemakers like you to attune to your strengths, purpose, and power written in your stars. If astrology, leadership, and real change through an uncolonized lens are your jam, click subscribe and let's dive in. Hello, luminaries. Welcome back to another episode of Star Powered. And almost we don't need an introduction for Theresa Reed, but if you don't already know, Theresa Reed, also known as the Tarot Lady, she's been a tarot card reader and astrologer for 40 years. She's the author of more than 8 best-selling books, including her new one, and including the tarot coloring book, Astrology for Real Life, and The Cards You Are Dealt. She's also the creator of 2 tarot decks, Tarot for Kids, which is such a great gift. I give that to all of my friends, and the Uncommon Tarot. Well, today she's joining us here again on the podcast to talk about her new book, the Book of Astrological Returns. Hi, Theresa.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to have time to chat with you about all things astrology.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so beautiful. I want to start off with just kind of a little personal, just there's all these circles of how things work, but I don't know if you know that Theresa is the author of the foreword for my upcoming book, Astrology for Changemakers. And Theresa, you graciously introduced me to Wiser Books. So I'm so indebted to you, just so grateful. Thank you. But this past weekend, I met the author of your foreword, Sam Reynolds.
Sam has been my astrologer now for a number of years, and I love Sam. I'm a Scorpio. First of all, I love Scorpios. If you're a Scorpio, you are automatically cool in my book. And I started working with Sam, and I really vibed with him. And there's other astrologers too that I like to work with and get readings with from time to time. But Sam is my consistent guy. So when he said he would write the foreword, I was scared to ask him. And when he said yes, I was like, oh my God, this is so big because I just love him. And when I got the forward, I cried. I was like just tearing up. I'm like, okay, I don't cry. I'm not a crier. But I was so overcome with, joy and his beautiful words. It was such an honor. He's just amazing. He's got to come out with a book.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. He needs to write a few books too. And I absolutely know that feeling of crying because when I read your book the first time I started crying and I was like, you see me so deeply. We have the same story. Well, so I didn't meet Sam last year, but I had seen his a few of his talks, and he just delivers these most incredible talks. I know this isn't a promo about Sam, but we just have to share this a little bit.
We just love Sam.
We just
If
love
Sam,
Sam.
hey Sam, if you're listening, we think you're the bomb.
And I remember last year I was a little bit intimidated because he's so just so big, his energy is so big, his wisdom is so big, and so I didn't go say hi to him last year. But this year picked up, I guess, one of my bookmarks because he saw the new book Astrology for Changemakers, and he saw me in the hallway, and he's like, "Is this you? Is this you?" And then so I was just like, "Yes," and then we opened up about you. And so
Oh. That's so funny. It's
yeah.
all, it's so funny because tarot readers and astrologers who've been at our game for a while, we all kind of know each other. Even if we don't know each other, haven't met in person, we all kind of know each other or know of each other. And I really love that. It's like this family connection, this
Oh,
loose family
absolutely.
connection where we're all like second and third cousins. And it's like, oh yeah, and you know this one. And I just always find those connections so fabulous.
And what's also beautiful about all those connections, right? If there's sometimes there's competition, but so little competition and so much love in terms of generosity because we all bring our own perspective, we bring our own voice, and through our lived experiences. And I found out that going back to Sam, he has, I guess, a few degrees in African American studies, and so his talks
Mhm.
this year were on the duality between Martin and Malcolm. And this all the civil right? So let me just slow down a bit. Mind is not catching up to my mouth. And it was just so beautiful. And I know you also have that kind of connection with like social justice and,
Mhm.
being the rebels that we are.
Yes, well, I've got a Libra rising, so justice is very important to me. And many, many years ago, I was part of a staff on an anarchist newspaper. So anything with the I've been interested in politics, especially anarchy, since I've been very, very young. And anarchy, by the way, isn't what people think it is. It's really about not wanting forced state or forced religion.
Yeah.
So that's really what it's all about. And, my Libra rising, I want everything to be fair. I want everyone to have justice. I want people to be able to make it in the world. And even though I am an anarchist, I also know we need government because so many people don't behave
Right.
and they need to be figuring things out. So it's a very Libra rising answer. So even though I lean this way, I also understand we do need government. And now we just got to get it to start working better for all of us, which right now,
No.
mm,
if,
it's a little bit salty and feisty and
Right. Well, I know this is not a podcast about politics, but if government is supposed to be there to support the communities, the people who might need extra help, and also do protections, right? That's why we have these regulations. But our current government is doing neither of those. So what's the point?
Right. And I think, anybody, by the way, who has a strong Libra in their chart is going to always be interested in justice issues.
Yeah.
One way or another, we're interested in it. A lot of people who are Libras or Libra ascendants make very good lawyers and very good politicians because they really care about that fairness.
Yes.
And since the United States just went through the Pluto return, that's gotten a lot of people really talking about where are we going from here. And I think because everything is patterns, everything is cycles, astrology is a fascinating lens to look at what's happening now and what's happened in the past and to really kind of see how it's all the same but different.
Same but different. I like to call this when I'm working with my clients, looking at government patterns also, but our own patterns. I call this the spiral
Mhm.
journey. And hopefully we're
Mm.
going up the spiral, but we return to those kinds of same devils, those same problems and issues. Like, I thought I worked on that before. Oh no, but now you're going to work on it from another, hopefully higher level.
Yeah, well, when I just finished my second Saturn return. Oh my God. And there were some old issues that came back in a different way that required a different way of managing it. And it was really, I think because I had this idea of what a second Saturn return was going to be like, I was surprised that some of these other issues came back. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. But, handled it, got through it, graduated. And now it's behind me.
Yeah.
And I don't have to go through it again for their 27 years.
Well, tell us more. Tell us more. So, do you remember the theme of your first Saturn return, and how was that shifted and in your second Saturn return?
Well, my Saturn return, first of all, I have a lot of really big boundary issues. That's just my life theme.
Yeah.
It's my life theme. It's the thing I always have to work on. It's very hard for me. I always want to be polite. That's another Libra rising thing. I always want to be polite. I love courtesy. I like good manners. And so I anticipate that everybody else respects boundaries and is cool and not aggressive and not passive aggressive, but that's not the way the world works. And so it's always, always, always been a life lesson. And when I was going through my first Saturn return, my first husband and I were, having we had a very contentious divorce.
Mm.
And there were two children in the mix, and Saturn sits in my fifth house. And off the top of my head, I don't remember right now where Saturn was in my Saturn return chart. So, I do know the last one, so I'm going to get to that.
Yeah.
So, the big thing that was happening is I know there were a lot of boundary issues coming up. And so we had to learn how to work together. And it was not easy. He was very, very mad that we got a divorce, never got over it. And I knew that this can't go on like this.
Yeah.
And so my first Saturn return, it's like I had to wake up. I'm like, I got to start really interacting with him much differently. And we've got to figure this out. And we did. and we figured it out, and we ended up becoming friends, which was bizarre.
That's
And then we started
amazing.
like, oh yeah, then when the kids got older, we were tag teaming. The kids were like, wait, we liked it better when you guys were enemies, because now we're getting along and we work together really, really well. And then he passed away a number of years ago. So the beautiful thing that came out of that is we resolved this huge issue, and everything then went really good. So
Yeah.
the second Saturn return, when I started it, there were issues around the children. There were some things going on in their lives where I had to come in, and now they're adults.
Yeah.
So I had to come in. I had to be really working on my parenting with them. But the interesting thing is, in the second Saturn return chart, Saturn was sitting in my seventh house and making some really funky angles in my chart. And so what ended up happening then is, not only did my Saturn return activate that T square, but the Saturn return chart left me with Saturn in the seventh house. And it's like, okay, well, guess what? Going forward, you're going to have all these boundary issues. I had so many icky boundary issues during the second Saturn return that it blew me away. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't with my family. Children are fine.
Yeah.
I was just having to help them out. But it was like with peers and sometimes with parasocial relationships, like bizarre things. And I'm like, what the hell? And this is what now I'm going to be having to really resolve. So going forward, once you have your Saturn return, the chart done, it's really setting the tone for, okay, now you got through your Saturn return, but here's what you need to know for the next 27 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I really have to keep those boundaries intact. I've got to work on it
Yeah.
and not be afraid to be impolite.
Yeah, or to speak up for what's right. Well, what's really interesting, it's just the way your chart is organized, right? Like Saturn is one of the corners of your T square, and you have it opposite of Mars, which is the natural ruler of all of your relationships, your committed relationships. And so but what's beautiful about your T square is that it does have to resolve. Like you're not gonna let it just simmer. You're gonna be like, we're gonna fix this. Part your Libra rising, but part of all your Gemini that's like holding the balance between
Mm-hmm.
that T square. And so are you in the process now of resolving all of the second Saturn return boundaries, or have you already resolved them?
It's an ongoing issue. I've
Okay.
got, it's an ongoing, again, it's a life issue for me.
Yeah.
And I really think it's that damn Libra rising. I want to be polite. And even though some things have been resolved, there have been new things that have cropped up.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, can't. And I also find myself saying, can't people behave? But you know what? It's not them. It
Yeah.
really isn't them. It's my story that I have to work on. And my story is, it doesn't matter how other people behave. What matters is, how am I reacting to this? What am I going to do going forward? And how am I going to not take it personally when people are acting really awful?
Yeah.
I just had an incident not that long ago, and I don't want to get into it. But the incident, I was just sitting there with my jaw in my lap. I'm like, I cannot believe this person. What is wrong with them? And it's like, okay, well, now going forward, here's what you're going to have to do because of this person. And I don't like that, because I like to be like, I always like to say, I'm here to have a good time. I
Yeah.
want to have fun. I want to be playful. I like joking around. I like a nice glass of wine. I like talking about books and cats and all of that. So when people act really aggressive and awful,
Yeah.
I'm like, you're wrecking my party here.
Yeah. There's no need for this. No need.
Mm-mm.
No
It's
need.
very weird.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird. But again, it's part of my life lesson. And also with that Saturn return, the last second Saturn return, the last exact moment, I'm like, oh my, why are you in my why are you in my seventh house, Saturn? Why? Okay, I got it. Let me continue then to work on
Yeah.
really figuring out how to protect my energy and my peace.
Well, what's really interesting, what you're bringing up in terms of like the charts and the astrology for the second Saturn return, which is one of the things that I loved about this book, that it was a totally new technique that I didn't even think
Mm.
about, was so of course the book is about returns. We are all very familiar with our Saturn returns. If you're in your 50s, you're very familiar with your Chiron returns. And so a return is basically when one of the planets returns back to its natal position. I've been looking at the transit charts of these
Mhm.
returns for a very long time. I didn't know that you could also cast a chart for that return. And
Yes.
that's what kind of what that's that a new technique that blew my mind to get a deeper understanding of the lesson of that return. Can you tell us more about casting that chart and how you
Yeah.
look at it?
So, I did not, first of all, I did not know about returns till I went to my first Saturn return. I missed it in my astrology studies because there were no books on it that I could find, back in the day. This is a long time ago, y'all. I'm about to retire. So, but I remember when I was going through this with my ex, and I went visited my astrologer at the time. And he said, "Oh, it's your Saturn return." I'm like, "What the hell's that?" And he explained it to me and explained how it worked. And so, he explained it's like a solar return. Your solar return is your birthday chart.
Mm-hmm.
You get this chart, and on the day that comes close to the day you're born, it tells where a lot of energy is going to be concentrated. Basically, the Saturn return is when you got to grow up, yada, yada, yada. And so that's what I learned from him at that point. And so then I became really interested in returns because I've always been interested in prediction. Divination prediction are always what I'm fascinated with. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I love going back and looking at the history of things too, because then you can see how it's worked out or not worked out. But how the return charts work, I mean, it's very simple. I'll use solar return as an example
Yeah.
because that's the one most people are familiar with. That's what most astrologers use for predictive astrology. The solar return happens, when the sun comes into the exact degree and sign and minute of the time you're born. And so we cast that chart at that time. And that is like your birth chart for the next year. And it's interpreted like the birthday or the birth chart for the next year ahead. So that's how we interpret it. You can look at the transits for the solar return, which you do when you do a transit chart anyways for the year. So you can do that too. But that chart is significant because this sets the tone of where there's major energy concentrated in the next year. Now, my last reading with Sam, so the solar return showed the sun in my second house. And I thought, oh, good, Jupiter's there, the sun is there. I'm feeling pretty good.
Money.
Oh, yeah. And so Sam says, you're going to be bleeding a lot of money this year. I'm like, what?
No.
I'm like, no, no, no. I don't want to hear that because I'm like a frugal person. I don't like to spend money at all. I'm like one of those people. My sister always says, you've got money stuck somewhere. And I always do. Well, what I ignored in my solar return chart, not my birth chart, was that my moon for my solar return chart was in Sagittarius and it was opposing my sun in the eighth house. So and I bled so much money, Leslie, this last year. Every time something came up, I'm like, Sam. But so it sets the tone for the year. So with other returns, even while you can look at the transits that are happening, when you run that return chart, it's going to set the tone for that period. So for a lunar return, it's for the month.
Okay.
Every month you get a lunar return. That lunar return chart, you're always going to have the same moon, but other things are going to be lined up differently. You might have a different ascendant, for example. The moon might be in a different place than it is in your natal chart. The Mercury return is setting the tone for the next year and how you're thinking, how you're learning, how you're communicating. Venus return sets the tone for about a year too. You can see how you're loving, how you're connecting, how you're spending. Then there's the Mars return, which can give you a lot of information for the next 2 years about your ambition, your aggression, how that's working out for you. The Jupiter return, even though it only happens in your life for a year every 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
that last Jupiter return chart is also showing you where you're growing or expanding for the next 12 years. So
Ooh.
even once the Jupiter return is done, you still have this energy, this little like
Imprint.
fingerprint,
Yeah, fingerprint.
yeah, of this area that you're going to be working on. And then we've got Saturn, which sets even though Saturn return only lasts 2.5 years and you want to track those transits, that Saturn return chart is going to again set the tone. And then we have the Chiron return, which sets the tones for the next 50 years.
Yep.
My Chiron return actually wasn't too bad. It actually really fixed a lot of things.
Mm.
Then we have our nodal or reverse nodal returns. They set the tone for X number of years. Uranus return, that's going to happen only once in your lifetime at age 84.
Yep.
So that tells you a lot about your independence and your freedom and how that's working out. And then we have Neptune and we have Pluto, which are more about cultural things and politics. And you might live through it, but you're not going to experience it personally. And it sets the tone for the culture. It sets the tone for our beliefs, our government,
Yeah.
all of that. It's so fascinating.
Did you run the chart for the United States Pluto return by chance?
You bet I did. And it's in that book.
Oh, I didn't get to. I'm only in Mars. I didn't get to Pluto yet.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to write a book on returns because so I'm going through my second Saturn return, and I had written about the second Saturn return and stuff in Twist Your Fate, which was a book that I released a couple of years ago. I wrote a little bit about it, but at that time it was theory, and I always say astrology is theory anyways.
Yeah.
And so, there wasn't much information on the second Saturn return. It's always focused on that first one. And so here I'm in my second Saturn return. I'm like, this isn't what I expected. This is an SHIT show. What the hell? And I'm doing all the research and looking everywhere. And then my Jupiter return kicked in. I'm like, okay, how come there's not more information on that? And we just got through this Pluto return. Why isn't there more? Why isn't there one little book that can be concise, but comprehensive, and just gives you all the dirt? And I mean, over the years, I've done return charts for clients too, mostly solar. But I'm like, why? Why do I have to work this hard? There should be just a little book that you can rip open. Oh, yeah, that's what that means. And then you can get about your business of predicting.
Yeah.
And so between the US's Pluto return, my Saturn return, and Jupiter return, I'm like, this needs to be a book. So I approached my publisher and I said, somebody needs to write this damn book.
Yes.
I'm going to do it.
I'm so
And
glad
so
that
that's
you
what
did.
inspired it. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a niche book. It's kind of a weird topic, but why wasn't there something like that? I can find bits and pieces here, and there are books on solar returns, but I mean, it's scanty information at best. And if you are a working astrologer, and if you've ever done some of these charts for people, there's charts, by the way, you're never going to do for your clients, or rarely.
Right.
And I give a lot of professional advice in that book too.
Yeah.
Like the solar is the one you're mostly going to do, and the Saturn return, mostly that's what you're going to do.
For me,
Venus
Chiron
return,
returns. I got a lot of Chiron
oh,
return
those
clients.
two, yes, yes. Chiron too. But the Venus return would also be one that I would do if somebody was in a new relationship or if they're going through a divorce.
Mm.
And I have a really good example of someone who was going through a terrible divorce. And we looked at their Venus return. I'm like, oh my God, you are getting nailed in this Venus return. And so I had to finally say, you need to get the biggest BITCH lawyer you can find. Like it needs to be like Beth Dutton from Yellowstone, and that's how you're going to beat this. And so they did. And they came out of the divorce fine. Everything worked out. But we had to go to extremes because I looked at that Venus return, I'm like, oh, you're going to have to get hardcore here. This is not good energy.
Oh my goodness. So this inspires me. That is so fascinating to think about the Venus return chart for like a relationship, like the new phase of a relationship for like a 1 year out. But, I was meeting with a client yesterday, who is really trying to figure out if she needs to close her business and just having all of the feels about closing her business and feeling like a failure. And so would you look at the ruler of the 10th house to kind of, and look at that
Yep.
return chart?
Yeah, and also another thing I would do for that is I would absolutely look at a Mars return because Mars has a lot to say about ambition. I would look at a Mars return there. I would also look at a transit chart, what is going on in that 10th house and that 6th house.
Yeah.
I would also, you can look at the ruler of that 10th house, run a chart for that. I mean, you can get real granular. And of course, the solar return can tell you a lot. So there's a lot you can work with to get really granular.
Oh,
That's what I would do.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like this one of the things that is just so valuable for me as a working professional astrologer was just the techniques to use in terms of like getting
Yes.
more information because like you were saying when you run the solar return chart, like we're so used to that solar return chart and just understanding like the energy for the upcoming 12 months of your life, but the interesting thing that I learned about the solar return chart or any of these planetary return charts is to look at that planet. So, in a solar return chart, the sun in
Hmm.
relationship to like the ascendant and the ascendant ruler. And that
Yes.
gives you more information. Could you tell us more about that? Because that was like, that blew my mind. I was like, oh,
It's so important because, again, you read all of these return charts, you read them like it's a birth chart.
yeah,
And one of the things that I like to do, and again, I no longer read for the public, but one of the things I love to do when I look at astrology, I'll analyze a bunch of different charts and pick the three most important things to
yes.
tell that person because it can get very overwhelming. Do I like to get granular? Yes, I've got seven Mercury ruled planets. Duh, of course I do. And all that Virgo energy. But
All
that's
the
very
data, all the
overwhelming.
data.
Yes, it's very overwhelming for a client. So I would run a couple of charts, look at the important points, and just pick out what's going to be important. And when you do a solar return, what you want to look at is first of all, where's the sun? Where's it sitting? What is, you also want to look at the moon because we also want to see how you're showing up emotionally for this year.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we want to look at is the ascendant because that's showing the hat you're wearing to do the work of your solar return. But where's the ruler? Where's the ruler of that? Where's the ruler of that chart? Because that's going to be important too. So those are the four big things you're going to be looking at for the solar return, but it also applies to every other return chart, except if you're doing a Mercury return chart, instead of the sun, you're looking, where's Mercury? What's Mercury doing? Is it well aspected? Is it getting nailed? What's that ascendant doing? Because the ascendant again also shows how you're doing the work. And here's the one thing about the ascendant: you could have a very, very different ascendant than yours, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. So the way you're showing up for your solar return may be different than your natal chart. I
Yeah.
think my next solar return. God, I have a reading with Sam coming up. Sam better be telling me nothing but good things after this year. I'm telling you. But I did my own solar return, and I want to just double check it so I'm not like
We're going to send this
giving the wrong.
episode to Sam and like make a note. Only good news for Theresa.
Yes, Sam. All I want to hear is all the good things. I don't want to hear one bad thing. I want to hear that everything's going to be perfect, and you're going to recoup all that money that you blew in this last year. So, what's happening for my next solar return? The sun is going to be sitting conjunct my part of fortune in my 11th house. Awesome. It's very, very, it's looking good. So I'm feeling very happy about it. And so what's interesting is the ruler of this chart is Leo, or the ascendant is Leo. Now, I tend to be a little bit more introverted, but Leo says, okay, it looks like you're going to have to be more visible, lady.
Yeah.
And where Leo is ruled by the sun, so that really amplifies my solar return. So it's going to be an important return for me. And I'm very excited about it. Also, the moon is going to be in Taurus, which is exalted, and it's sitting conjunct the midheaven. So I'm looking at this chart, and Sam, Sam, if you're listening, I'm looking at it. It's looking good. You've got to tell me the good stuff, Sam. So I can see that it's like, okay, I can put my energy into, groups. I can put energy into my goals. My goals this year look lucky. It's a good year to be in the public eye.
Yeah.
We've got that again. We've got that Leo ascendant. We've got the sun in the 11th house. We've got that exalted moon sitting right on the midheaven. This is feeling like, after last year, like maybe a reward.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, let's take it. Now you got me curious. I opened up my solar return chart. My birthday was
Yes.
in February. And I'm like, I have a packed second house with Mars going through. And this has been a year of like bleeding money, but I have everything is in the second house. Sun, Mars, Venus, North Node, and Mercury all in the second house.
So
So
you have a stellium there. And anytime there's a stellium in your return chart, I mean, I think that that is something to pay attention to. If you have a packed house, what are all these planets doing there? I mean, what are they doing? We want to know. And what's interesting with my solar return, almost every planet is in the upper hemisphere
Ah,
except Pluto. So again, lots of visibility. And not only do I have a book that just came out, I mean, the Book of Astrological Returns just came out. I have another book coming out next May, before my next. So I have a birthday coming up, and then I get this new chart and all this visibility stuff, and I have another book coming out in May. So it's perfect timing for all of that.
yes.
Perfect.
Well, how can I mitigate my visibility?
Well,
We got
we've
my
got
book
what.
coming out too.
So, what is your solar return? What is the ascendant?
Capricorn. Got to put in
All
some hard work.
business. Yep,
Hard work.
hard work, all business. That means really showing up and having a good structured plan for the work that you're doing.
Check.
The
I have that.
visibility, of course you do. I know you do. So where's Saturn then sitting in?
It was right before the Saturn Neptune, the great Saturn Neptune conjunction. Both of them are in the third house.
Okay, so the third house is about our communication.
Yeah.
And I would say with Saturn and Neptune both being there, were they in Aries at the time? I just want to make
Yep.
sure. Yeah,
Both in
you
Aries.
are really going, I would say, push out of the comfort zone. Get yourself into places that maybe nobody else is thinking about. With Saturn, I'd be hitting things like Forbes. I'd be trying to get, I'm telling Business
Oh,
Insider. I'd be going for that, but I'd also be going for the really spiritual things. So if you could find a mix of really getting into places that are unexpected, I would be again with that Capricorn, that Aries energy. Let me get into Business Insider. Let me pitch things to them. Let's look for also all the spiritual things. I know the book is, about change makers, but maybe hitting up Marianne Williamson and talking about your book. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I would be doing. And so, what would be the midheaven there?
a Libra with Venus in the
Oh,
second
Libra
house.
midheaven with Venus in the second house. You're going to have to invest some money too in doing your PR, which,
Yeah.
PR is not cheap. It just,
No.
whatever. But I mean, a Libra on the midheaven, I think that is going to make you very appealing. I think people are just going to naturally really want to talk about this and talk with you. So I don't think you're going to have a problem getting a lot of yeses. But I'd
Okay.
really look at, okay, let me reach out to these unexpected places. I would be reaching out also to people like, what's that lady who wrote Lean In?
Oh,
Erin Sandberg.
yes, yes, yes.
And offering to do like something, get her on your podcast and do her chart. I mean, wouldn't that be fascinating
That
to have
would
people
be.
like that? I mean, I would be thinking about stuff like that. Who are people who are change makers? Who are people who are out there doing amazing things? Get them on my podcast, talk about it. Do they have a podcast? Can I get on that?
Yeah.
I mean, really
It's
take that up. Get on Glennon Doyle's thing,
thank
reach
you.
big.
I will.
Capricorn goes for the top. Capricorn is the goat. They're not going to just say, well, let me do this little like bookmark and no, you're going to have to reach out to the power players. Third house is let's communicate.
Yes.
Let's communicate and let's communicate with people who are, out there spiritually, out there in the business world.
Yeah.
And I would be hitting both of those up.
Strategic, Glennon Doyle. I will take it. Oh my goodness. Well, I thank you, Theresa. I didn't expect this like wonderful little mini reading. I appreciate
It's
it.
fascinating, right?
Yes.
It's so fascinating. And the thing is, even after you know all this stuff, there's still so much to learn. I
So
mean, I
much.
always think I only know like what I know about tarot and astrology fits on the head of a pin. These are topics that are so vast.
Yeah.
And I loved doing the returns because it got me down rabbit holes for some of them, that some of the ones that I couldn't find a lot of information on.
Yeah. Which one was the most surprising for you or like the most fascinating?
The Pluto return.
The Pluto return. Ooh, let's talk about that.
Because the historical stuff is always fascinating to me. Now, my daughter writes historical fiction, and she's
She's
a
a
big
writer
history
too.
fanatic. Yes, she's an amazing editor too. She's like the best. Virgo ascended.
There
But
we go.
so her and I love to talk about things about the past, like old things. We'll talk about like old clothes, old houses. We're really fascinated with the way things were. And, so talking about historical things is something that we just do naturally. And we're also very political. We love to talk about politics. So when the first Pluto return came along, and this is the US's first, by the way.
Yeah.
They only happen every 249 years. And I just want to also add, what do people say? Civilizations fall
Oh yeah,
or
most
empires fall every
empires.
250
Yeah,
years?
most
Every
empires don't
250
make
years.
to Pluto returns.
No. So my daughter and I were really fascinated when it first kicked in because we're like, oh yeah, I mean, an empire might fall, but wow, we got our first black president. This is looking good. This is looking awesome. Yeah. So we were both really enthused. And again, astrology is theory. And so at first glance, that's what I thought it was going to be like. Like we were going to be heading in this really progressive era. And so I was tracking that Pluto return, having my little thoughts about it. And then it really went in a very, very different
Oh,
direction. And I don't want to diss
very
anybody's
sad.
politics. I'm not here to do that. Whatever you believe, that's up to you. There's a lot of things I don't believe in. I don't believe in football, so whatever. I don't go to football games. So I'm not going to diss someone's politics. Whatever you feel, whatever. I've got my thing, you got your thing. And so when things started going south and getting really ugly and really racist, um, it was, I mean, I always knew the United States was very racist.
I mean, it was built on, yeah, it was built on a foundation of segregation.
Yeah, and horrible things. And we've only had kind of a democracy for like the last 60 years, kind of a
Yeah.
democracy. So when all this stuff started happening and all this horrible racist things came up, I was like, oh my God, I'm looking at this much differently. We are fighting for our democracy, is what this Pluto return is all about.
Yeah.
And we've never really had one. And what little threads we have, they're being unraveled. So suddenly it took on a very, very different flavor. And when I started looking at the Pluto return, and mostly a lot of it talking about it on my Patreon and talking about it with my daughter, I'm like, oh my God, I don't like the way this is going at all. And so the last Pluto return chart, it's interesting
Yeah,
because
there's what,
the
three
Pluto,
or how many charts are there for the Pluto return?
well, people have to remember with longer
Oh.
returns, like you'll get more than one chart.
Mhm.
You get three charts if Pluto goes retrograde back and forth over it, which is very common.
Yeah.
And so when it first, goes over the Pluto, it's like, okay, it's like igniting this whole thing. And the second one, when it retrogrades over, it's like, okay, we've got a chance to review it. But the last one is always the most important one because that's setting the damn tone.
The last
And
one.
so when I
Okay.
looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, we've got Capricorn ascendant, which is very conservative.
Yeah.
We've got Pluto sitting there. And by the way, when you look at
I'm
the
looking at
first
it
Pluto,
right now.
yeah, but when you look at the first Pluto return chart, you can see how Roe v. Wade was overturned right in that
Oh,
chart.
with the Cancer rising.
And not only that, look at what's happening with Venus and Mars.
Oh yeah, and the in
I want to make
Capricorn.
sure I got a copy so I'm not just
Yeah.
saying it from memory because I want to be specific with you. And again, remember also for every astrologer who's out there, everybody's going to have their own ways of interpreting things. So
Yeah.
please, if you don't agree with my interpretation, you'll find your own way to interpret it. But okay, so here's the thing that really fascinated me. We had Mars and Venus conjunct in that chart, and both in Capricorn. And it
Squaring the
really felt like
moon.
men and women fighting each other,
Hmm.
squaring the moon. And I looked at that and I'm like, I'm not surprised when Roe v. Wade got overturned. Once I looked at that first Pluto return chart, even though the focus is again on Pluto, I mean, we've got Pluto also sitting in the eighth house, and the eighth house has a lot to say about reproduction
Yep. It
and
does.
sexuality.
Yep.
And we see them coming for LGBTQ plus rights. So all of that stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think about this because again, the first Pluto return, when it first starts kicking in, because right when Pluto goes into the sign Capricorn, the Pluto return officially starts. Even though it's not exact yet, it
Mm.
officially starts. And so it starts off looking like, hey, this is looking pretty good. But then when it got exact and I went back and looked at the chart, I'm like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is looking different. And when I did the last chart, okay, let me see this one. The
Page
last chart,
186.
yep, what's interesting is we have a Capricorn ascendant, which is very conservative. That's the face we're projecting to the world. We've got Pluto with Venus and Mercury sitting in the 12th house. The sun is back there too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we see like there's this power behind the scenes. There's a real desire to control women as we really see that. But what's also interesting is Saturn, which is the ruler of that chart, is in the first house, but it's in Aquarius and it's intercepted. And I do intercepted charts. Not everybody does them. I love
Yeah. I
interceptions
love
because
interceptions.
oh my God,
Mhm.
interceptions are kind of like this secret thing you're not paying attention to.
Mhm.
It's like a secret power that you have, and it's not always obvious. So what we're seeing is there is a public face here that's going to be very conservative with a lot of controlling things happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But that Saturn in Aquarius says, but the people are also the community. You can try to oppress them all you want. They are going to surprise you. And what I was teaching my students this, and I said, you know what this chart is like? It's like business in the front, but there's a party in the back. And one of the students says, oh my God, the United States is a mullet. I'm like, oh my God, it is. It's a mullet going forward. So when I look at this chart, when I look at it, I'm like, okay, is it scary now? Yes. Are they going to be doing all kinds of things to, again, oppress women and all of that? Yes, but I think it's going to get moved and pushed to the back. And I think it's not obvious to them, the
Yep.
people who are trying to do all these horrible things. I don't think it's obvious to them that the people are going to flex their power.
I mean, we're, from the current transits of this year, right, where it's with Uranus, the Uranus
Hmm.
return also, we're in ready, or the Uranus return for the United States, we're ready for another revolution, right? Um,
Yes.
but what's interesting, what are your thoughts on with all of this, the 12th house and the last Pluto return chart of the United States with all this 12th house energy? Do you think this is when they started writing Project 2025?
Oh, Project 2025 was written a long time ago.
For
I mean, this is their wet
yeah.
dream. This is their wet dream.
Right.
But when I look at that 12th house, this is the one thing I think about. It does feel like we're going to be less of a superpower. It's like the sun is
Oh,
setting.
yeah, it's already happening.
And so we may be looking like we're tough and hardcore and conservative and all of that. But that 12th house is like you're you're going to have broken teeth
Yeah.
and you'll be able to gnash and control a few people here and there. I don't think it's going to work out in the long run. I just don't. I just
Maybe
don't.
maybe that Saturn, the Saturn that's intercepted is also kind of like a repression not only of the people but also of like true news, because nobody's talking about how many advances China has. I mean, China is the new superpower, and most Americans are completely oblivious to this.
They have infrastructure like we can't even
Oh
imagine.
yeah, and technology.
They've invested in technology. And meanwhile, what are we doing here? Kicking out the scientists and
Going
taking
back
away
to
solar
oil.
power.
Going back to
Well,
oil.
here's the one thing that I think is very interesting too. When you again look at things historically and you look at Pluto and Capricorn and all of that, when the United States was founded, and I'm using my little air quotes here because we know it wasn't really founded, but the people who came together to sign a Declaration of Independence, what did they do? They told England to stick it. We're going to be independent now. We're forming our own country. And these were a bunch of wealthy, white, male landowners
Mm-hmm.
who enslaved people.
Yep.
They were enslavers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that, quote unquote, founded this country. And over the years, we've had to fight tooth and nail to get even a few of the rights that we should have been entitled to from the jump. I mean, Black women only got the right to vote in 1965, the year I'm born. Think
Yeah.
about that for a second.
I mean,
Women did
women,
not,
we didn't even have
yeah,
credit cards.
no, we weren't allowed to have credit cards or to get a loan
Until the
without a man
70s.
signing it. 70s in
Mhm.
my era, you know? We weren't allowed to get, access to reproductive care to control our destinies until also 60s and 70s. So all these rights that they're taking away are rights that we've only recently had. And what they're doing now is they're trying to go back to the days where the wealthy white male landowners had a bunch of enslaved folks working for them, and women know their place. They're trying to get us back to what this country was founded on. And that's where they're going to be in for a surprise. This is where I see Saturn and Aquarius. You may think that's how it's going to go down, but if that's how you think it's going down, I'm going to borrow a line from Game of Thrones. You haven't been paying it. If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. Because the other thing to pay attention to, and this is going to be off the Pluto return topic, Pluto's now in Aquarius. Last time Pluto was in Aquarius, what happened? American Revolution, French Revolution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Haitian
But also,
Revolution, I think. Too.
Yes,
Yeah.
so many revolutions. And what's really interesting, this is again astrology's theory, this is my theory. A lot of people who are doing the really horrible things right now are the Pluto and Leo generation. A lot of these men who are doing the very, very horrible things have Pluto and Leo. And the Pluto and Leo generation, my belief is in past lives, they were kings and queens. So in this lifetime, they still think that they are entitled to have a crown on their head. And Pluto and Aquarius is like, no, the power belongs to the people. So we're going to see very soon a lot of these kings are going to lose their crowns. Mark my words. That's why, again, when people are like, oh, Theresa, this is terrible and it's horrible, I'm like, I'm looking at astrology and I'm looking at a couple things here, and pattern recognition is what astrology is all about. And I'm like, they're going to win for a little while and then they won't. And all laws can be overturned and changed. What you think they're doing right now is permanent. We thought Roe v. Wade was permanent, right? It got overturned. So if you think what's going on now is going to be the way it is forever and ever, no. And as we look at what China's doing with all this technology, and we are falling so far behind, people are going to be like, we need to invest. So I think that we are seeing the last gasp, and it's really ugly. And Pluto in Aquarius says, Viva the revolution. And it's in that first house.
Yep.
Pay attention.
I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. I hate to be Pollyanna, but I'm hopeful for what's going to happen because I mean, the old has to crumble away. And, sorry, Pluto and Leo, like, that death rattle is not pleasant, but hey, here we go.
That Pluto and Leo generation, I've got a lot of relatives who are Pluto and Leo. I'm Pluto and Virgo. They had it made, man. They could afford houses when they were in their 20s. Yeah. They had free college. They could get a job and have a pension. And they got in power and took it all away. Why? Why'd you pull up the ladder behind you? Because again, in past lives, they were kings and queens. Why do you think they're called the me generation? I mean, I love my cousins who have Pluto and Leo, but I'm like, you guys, you don't know how good you had it. And you think we're being whiners.
And they blame us for not being more successful and not pulling ourselves up by the boots.
Oh, and millennials are eating too much avocado toast. I mean, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The stupidest thing. You've made it hard. You've made it hard. It's got to be better than that. And it will get better. But we have to go through hard things because there are, and I'm going to say this too, it makes a lot of women who look like me very, very uncomfortable. But if you are somebody with white skin like me, even if you are complaining about things, you have to look at your role and how you've also just kind of sat back and thought maybe, oh, this wasn't a big deal. It's not affecting me. You can't be thinking like that. We're all in this together. And it's really the responsibility now of folks who look like me to be doing the damn work. And so when I look at, again, how was this country founded? A bunch of old rich white dudes. Now they want to go back there. No, the rest of us white folks need to stand up and remember, back in the day, there were all kinds of other revolutions and uprisings. I mean, that were happening that were affecting poor white folks too. We've got to get involved. That Pluto and Aquarius, that Saturn and Aquarius in this chart.
Yes.
It's time.
Well, thank you for speaking.
Get to work.
Speaking and calling to action other white women to to do the work. I've been listening to a lot of younger politicians lately, Mondani and of course AOC, and there's a Turkish guy I was just recently listening to. I think it's Hassan Pakar. Like fascinating voices, which give me a lot of hope for the future of the United States.
The ones who give me the hope are those folks, but also Justin Pearson and Justin Jones are two of my heroes. I love those two young men. I also love Jasmine Crockett. Isaiah Martin is a great, great voice out there too. I really think that, we have these amazing group of young, visionary Black and brown folks
Yes.
that are getting in there. And by golly, they need to be in there
Yes.
because they need the representation. Why are most of the seats in our government still mostly just white men with money? Why?
Yeah, they're the
That's not the way this
minority.
that's also not, yeah, that's not the way this country looks. Why are we, I mean, even like I'm watching like the California race right now. Why are we so eager to throw our money behind a billionaire? Why do you
Right.
assume because the guy's a billionaire that he's going to know more than like Mamdani, who's not?
Yeah,
Why? We've
absolutely.
really got to get our heads straight. And again, it's going to come down to folks who look like me are going to have to really do the work. And white women, if we got to do better,
I
we've got to
want to
do
call out
better.
I want to call in the Gen X women also, right? I'm a Gen Xer, the ones that we just
I'm a Gen Xer. I just made it.
oh
Don't get
and
me started on those
right
women.
the ones that are crossing over into like their Chiron, they just had their Chiron returns. We're having these Pluto trines right now. It's really our time to like do the work and step up. Like no more hiding, friends.
Yes, and I'm an old Gen Xer. I just made it. Like just made it. And if you know anything about my life, I'm a classic Gen Xer in so many ways. But I know a lot of Gen Xers, like I have a younger brother who has become, I mean, a person I don't recognize anymore. So angry, so bitter.
Mm.
And I'm like, you used to listen to The Clash and you're going along with this horrible things
No,
that are
yeah.
harming people. Make it make sense. How can you grow up listening to The Clash and Rage Against the Machine and then be wanting to oppress people? It I'm at a loss
Yeah.
for words. It's such a bummer. Or how can you grow up having the rights that I can control my body and being okay with it being taken away and voting for it? Because when you look at the people who voted for a lot of these very oppressive politicians, they're in my age group. They're in that Gen X group.
Mhm.
Why? Why are you doing this to yourself?
Yep.
Why?
They didn't think that it was going to impact them. And then all of a sudden, their daughters who are having babies and, you know, um, needing abortions because it's going to threaten their life now don't have access. And it's like, well, now it impacts. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like they're not really thinking about that. But you shouldn't have to think about, and I know we're going off on a political
No.
thing. Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. I'm
we're
a
just
very
go
political
we're
person.
Geminis and just going where it flows.
And the thing here is, you shouldn't have to wait until it happens to you
Yeah.
to feel what someone else might go through.
Thank you.
Empathy. I mean, for me, I can always understand how somebody else feels. So for me, even if I'm not, like, for example, I'm not trans, I'm cis het, I'm white, I'm about as vanilla as it gets, even though I'm spicy. But I can absolutely understand how a trans person feels
Yeah.
when they're under attack, when people are trying to like not let them go and use a bathroom. I
Yeah.
can feel the shame, the humiliation. I mean, I can feel that.
The
And because I can
isolation.
feel that, yes, why would I want to cause harm? Why?
Exactly.
If this
Exactly.
is going to hurt somebody, I don't understand. I don't understand that. And I mean, I grew up also around religious people. Why are some of these religious people so mad
And doing the most harm, I might add.
and doing harm? That is not as what it's preached
No.
at all. So we've got to do better. And that's why when I think of the Pluto return and the ultimate end of the chart, it's like, yeah, it's looking a certain way, but there is a power rising that
Yes.
maybe people aren't seeing. And then the people are going to, at some point, they're going to have, I've had enough.
Ah,
I just don't think this is going to be forever. And I think right now, Pluto in Aquarius is here to activate all of that. It's here to activate it. We've got to do better. We can't lose our empathy, our
no.
lack of humanity. I don't get that. You and I should run the world, Leslie.
You know what? I don't want to be president, but I think more women, kind-hearted women, empathetic women, women who are, want to bring the world together instead of separating it apart, absolutely need to run the world.
And
Absolutely.
we also need more Black women running the world,
Yes.
because
Yes.
they are the most highly educated in our country. And let me tell you something, when a Black woman says something like, oh, I better pay attention to this because it's going to be right at some point, whatever they say. And there's so many amazing Black female leaders
Oh,
and
yeah.
also Black male leaders too. Again, I love the Justins. I just call them the Justins. I want to adopt them both because they're so amazing. But I mean, I'm watching women like, women of color, and I'm like, wow, they're always saying the thing. Ayanna Presley, I love her. I love her. I mean, there's just, they know what's up.
Well, friends, I feel like Theresa has given us a really good task list of things to do. We need to follow all of these young politicians and thought leaders that Theresa has mentioned. We need to order this book on astrological returns so that you know more about your different life transit, well, returns really, life phases, and also get some history lessons with this Pluto return.
Yes, and I would like to give everybody a little assignment. Okay, you've got a book
Okay.
coming out,
Yeah.
about astrology for
For
change
change
makers.
makers. We're the change makers we need right
Right.
now.
Exactly. So here would be a really fun assignment for everybody. Definitely read about the Pluto return and then start tracking some of these young politicians, start tracking their transits. I mean, you can't always get their exact information because not everybody has their time of birth, but start tracking and use that as a way to study astrology. How is Justin Pearson showing up right now? If I do a solar return for him, what is that showing this year? And start tracking them and following all the historical things. First of all, it's going to make you a damn good astrologer. But second of all, it's really fascinating, especially when you're watching these young people come into their first Saturn return and their
Yes.
Chiron returns and finally getting into power. And we're watching that Pluto and Leo generation fade away. Pay attention to them too.
Yeah.
Really use history as a way to study astrology. It is one of the absolute best ways to learn because you can go back and check your math, so to speak, right
Yes.
there.
Oh, Theresa, that's such good advice. And when you were saying that, I was thinking about, oh, I would like to check AOC's. She's
Yes.
probably coming up with her first Pluto square. And so she's entering her midlife. And, as already a powerhouse, like how much more power she's going to have as she like refuels and recharges in midlife.
She's got so much going for her.
Yeah.
That woman's got big, big things on the horizon. And I love the fact that she's fearless.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I could
Mm.
just use a little drop of that.
I could use a couple drops of that. It's like, give me a little bit of what she's got going on. I'll take it. I'm really into that. Yeah, I think we're going to see some really amazing things happening with her.
I love
Amazing.
it. Well, Theresa, this has just been such a joy. I love where our conversation has led us. You just blew my mind so much more. And really, everybody, grab this book. The Book of Astrological Returns is just so wonderful. And, just a little plug. Remember, Theresa did write the forward to my book. So make sure you get that on pre order as well.
Yes, because then you learn not just about the cycles, but you learn how to be in the world and making the changes.
Being the
So these
change.
two books actually work really well together.
Yeah, thank
Seriously.
you. Thank
Learn
you.
about those cycles, learn how to work with the cycles, and then learn how to work with your chart so you can be out there being the change you want to see rather than sitting around and saying, oh, the Pluto return. No,
No.
you've got a role to play. You've got a role to play in astrology for change makers. This may tell you the vibe, but that's going to tell you how to show up and rock that vibe.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Theresa. That's so wonderful. Well, just thank you for sharing your wisdom. Everybody, follow Theresa on at the Tarot Lady on Instagram, on Threads, and her website, thetarotlady.com, for free gifts and, of course, her amazing newsletter.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Leslie.
Thank you, Theresa.
Bye, everybody.
So thank you again. If this episode, if this podcast has touched your heart, please share it with others. Please leave me a rating and review so we can reach the hearts of even more change makers like you.